Oh hi, let me conclude this series of video presentations with some final comments. When you use LaTex, as a rule, you make a lot of mistakes. At least I do. You make typographical errors. LaTeX won't help you that. It will just typeset the errors. You will make errors in the mathematical formulas, and we have played with it a little bit in previous presentations, what kind of error messages you get. Or you make errors in your instructions to LaTeX, that is when typing commands and environments. Typographical errors you can correct by viewing and spell checking the typeset article, finding the errors. Mistakes in the second and third categories probably trigger errors during the typesetting process, such as the math errors we have discussed before. You will have to correct these mistakes before doing a final typesetting. We now look at a few examples of errors of the third class. We open up the introductory article and we will introduce on purpose some errors in our instructions to LaTeX and see what happens. So, the first error we introduce is that in the abstract environment we delete the closing brace. Let's typeset the article. We get the error message that on line 28 there is a runaway argument. It says something about the abstract environment in that it mentions open brace abstract, and it says paragraph ended before begin was complete. Actually, this error message is pretty helpful. Runaway argument usually means that a command has one or more arguments, and the brace from one of the arguments, closing brace, is missing. In this case, it is this one that is missing, we know that. It also points out that this has something to do with the abstract, so you simply look at the abstract environment, begin abstract, end abstract, and try to figure out where a closing brace might be missing. Line 28 is not a very useful piece of information. It only shows that the error occurred in the previous paragraph. Now, but this is really the point. The previous paragraph has only 2, 4, 6 lines. It is not difficult to go through those 6 lines and find out if all the braces match. We also have a brace for emphasize, they match, for end abstract they match. So with not too much work we can localize the problem and correct it. So let us correct the error we have, and let us go to the end abstract and delete the T typeset. Now the error message is pretty informative. It says the begin abstract opening of an environment ended with end abstract with the T missing. The two should have matched and they don't. So we are really told to put the T here or delete the T. In the previous one we typeset and we are fine. For the next experiment, go to begin definition and let us delete the closing brace here. Again, here it says paragraph ended before label was complete. Now that's again a very typical error message. The label command had an argument, and the argument cannot have in it a new paragraph. LaTeX was looking for the end of the argument, found a new paragraph right here. That's a blank line. So the reference is to line 58, and it says that the label is not complete. So we know that we have to worry about the label and put back the closing brace. The next mistake is a repetition from a previous one we have already done. We go to the notation and add a blank line following the formula. We typeset, and it says missing dollar inserted line 63. Well, obviously there is no missing dollar here. For mistakes like that, you will always get a funny error message. But if you go to the line suggested and you just look at it hard, you can see that we have a blank line in a displayed math environment, and we know that we cannot have that. We delete it and everything is fine. We repeat another mistake we have already discussed, but it's so important that I want to repeat it. I put a dollar sign in that displayed math environment. It says displayed math should end with $. The old way of displaying math is with the $, to open it and $, to close it. This says that you open up $, a displayed math environment, close it with a single dollar. That's no good. That's actually pretty informative if you know the background, and now everything is fine. Now let me tell you probably the most important rule in working with LaTeX. If your LaTeX file contains a single error which you have just put in and you typeset it, notwithstanding the error messages you get, you know that this is what you have just changed. Before you made the change, you typeset the document and it was fine. Therefore, the error has to be the last change made. Don't do the following. Many mathematicians print the completed article. They sit down with a red pen and make all the corrections. They put the corrections on a stand next to the computer. They carry out all the changes necessary, and then they typeset the document. This is really an invitation to a disaster. From my past experience when writing a previous edition of this book, I made a change in a figure environment, changed something in the caption, made an error. LaTeX, the LaTeX implementation I used in those days, always put the cursor in the source file on the line where the error was made. The cursor was placed 150 pages removed from the figure I have just edited, in the middle of a page, and told me that I have an unacceptable character on that line. It really could not have been less helpful. However, I was not in trouble. I knew that the only thing I did after the last typesetting is to change the caption. So I went to the caption, I realized that I messed up the closing brace, I corrected it, and everything was fine. Now, but imagine that you made 20 corrections and you find the first error, and the error message tells you that the error happened somewhere in the middle of nowhere. How do you go about correcting it? Things like that, of course, happened to me often in another previous version of this book once I made an error of not putting a backslash before a command. The result was that the first 6 chapters of the book were correctly typeset. The next chapter, the chapter itself, the chapter title itself was printed on 1 page, and the rest of the book was correctly typeset. This I haven't noticed, since where I was working everything was working fine. This I have noticed probably weeks later. I had to give the source file to a friend of mine who is very good in tracking down errors, and it took him several hours to find backslash that I failed to put in. So, this is the most important rule you can learn from me. Whenever you type a new document, after every sentence or after every paragraph, typeset it, correct the errors before you move on. If we are correcting a paper, a book, a document, make just one correction at a time, typeset it, and don't move on to the next error until the first error is corrected and you know that it was done without any mistake. Finally, let me talk about presentations. These days, presentations are so important that even in a short course, they should at least be mentioned. In the book itself, I have a big chapter on the Beamer package, which is really today the most popular package for making presentations. It would be a little bit too complicated to do that in the short course, but on the other hand, because of the importance of presentations, I would like to show you that an introductory article can be converted to an introductory presentation without too much work. So here you have side by side the introductory article and the introductory article converted to a presentation, which we call intro presentation. I changed the first line, of course. The big change is from AMS art to foils. This is a document class we use for foil tech. Foils does not load automatically the AMS math package, which is so important for us, so we have to do that with this use package command. The rest really doesn't much change, except that we have deleted the declarations which Force is going to define for us. The author command has been changed to include the address, and we have to do something funny. We have to move the abstract from before the make title to after the make title. FoilTech defines the theorem definition and so on environments. Unfortunately, in Foils they are all spelled with a capital first letter. So go through your paper, change all open brace definition to open brace capital D definition, and the same for theorems, lemmas, and proofs. FoilTech does not use sections, so we have to comment out all the section commands, and we break the presentation into pages or slides with the forehead command. The forehead command says start here a new page, and the argument of it is the title of that page. If it is empty, the page does not have a title. So all through the presentation